Okay, you don't think it's too loud, then it's not too loud. We'll do that. How about that?
Welcome to the show, man. This is Derek's Reptiles. I got the big homie Brian Kusko in the building. How you doing, brother?
Good, man. Well, you even said my last name right.
now, now you know me compared to you. I'm a slacker, and I'm gonna tell you why. My podcast don't even have a name. It's literally me BSing in my reptile room and hanging out with cool people along the way. Versus you got two dope podcasts up and running, man. What is that? Triple BTV and Whiskey Wimps, man. How you like running them shows, bro?
Well, first of all, neither of them are actually podcasts. I do one podcast with my buddy Garrett called Searchables Reptiles that we put up only once a month. That's our only actual podcast. But yeah, Whiskey Wimps, that's a YouTube channel that we just started. My buddy Matt and me, and that we started a few months ago. So that's one YouTube channel. And then I've got the vlog channel, which has been my most successful channel, where we do, just lifestyle vlog really is what it is. And there's of course reptiles involved because I do reptiles and keep reptiles. And then there's of course family because I'm a family guy and going to shows and just whatever it is. And I've got Triple BTV is a third channel. That's where we do mostly interview stuff like you're doing right here. And we've been doing live stream interviews there for the past, I don't know, it seems like it's been, I guess, almost a year at this point we've been doing them. But we're just getting back to doing in-person interviews. We went to the Arlington show this past weekend and got to do some interviews there, probably 7 or 8 interviews. So that's how we used to do them. We never used to do live stream interviews before. We'd always do them in person. So it's super fun to get back and do that because that's what I've always wanted to do.
For sure, bro.
Yeah, and then I also produced the Freedom Breeder channel. So there's another channel people may have watched called Freedom Breeder. The Freedom Breeders, if you're a reptile breeder, I think most people know who Freedom Breeder is. Lindy Johnson started the company back in '92 and kind of invented the rack system for breeding rodents and ball pythons. And so I produced their content as well. You go up there and film. I was actually working on it right before I called you, getting some of that stuff up. So yeah, no, I stay pretty busy. I was up at 5 this morning cleaning snakes, and I'll be going until probably about midnight tonight before I lay my head down and get ready to start it again the next day.
Man, that's what's up, bro. That's what's up, bro. Now you got a huge collection, bro. My collection is small. I probably got maybe 8 snakes and a couple lizards and a frog. How many reptiles do you got in your collection, man?
It's probably sitting somewhere in the, it varies depending on if snakes are hatching out or not. I've got like 5 or 6 clutches in the incubator right now. So it could potentially double, over the course of a couple months because of that. So because of how many snakes will hatch out, I've got like I said, 5 or 6, 8 or 9 egg clutches sitting in the incubator right now. But it's probably around the 60 or 70. It's funny. It's all perspective. It's like for some people, 1 snake is way too many. And for some people have 1 snake, they're like 10 snakes. That's insane. And then for you, you're saying you have like 8 snakes and a lizard and a frog. And somebody like me that has maybe 60 or 70 snakes, that seems like a huge amount of animals. But then for me, I've got, like I said, 60 or in that range somewhere. And then I look at some of these bigger breeders, like if you go to the Freedom Breeders facility, then there's like 2,500 snakes. But if you go from there to like Eugene Bassett's place where he's got thousands of snakes, or if you go all the way up to what like Brian Barczyk over at BHB when BHB was at its peak, I think they had like 30,000 animals or something like that.
Jesus.
Yeah, so it's funny just the perspective of, depending on what's a lot of animals. It just depends on what your perspective is, I think.
Right. Now, out of your collection, what's the worst bite you ever took?
So I don't have that snake here any longer. It was a snake that was kind of babysitting for my buddy Garrett, who I do the podcast with. It was a pretty decently sized female pied retic, and she was not good with people. She had a lot of negative experiences with people and had it like embedded in her system. It was kind of a little personal challenge of mine. I was trying to get her to be cool and calm like the snakes that I raised from babies, and it was long and hard, and I didn't actually get her to that point before she was ready to go back to Garrett. But she bit me a few times. There was one, she grabbed me on the back of my leg on the thigh, which wasn't that big a deal. It bled a little bit, and it's snake bites are not that bad. I always said I'd rather take a bite from a snake than most other animals. Whether it's lizards or rats or mice or dogs or cats, literally just about any other animal, I would choose to have the non-venomous, of course, snake bite over that. And that being said, this girl one time I thought I was really cool with her. I was getting real confident. I was kind of petting her up close to her neck, and I got a little too close to her head for her liking with my petting. And she just turned around and grabbed my hand, just grabbed it and kind of chomped down. It wasn't just because sometimes a defensive bite from a snake is it's like a slap of the slap of the face, basically, like you're getting slapped with their teeth. And this was a defensive bite for her, but she kind of didn't slap with the teeth as much as like chomp down and like give it a little extra pressure and be like, I didn't like that. And she just gave a little extra pressure, and it was on the hand, and I've had feeding response bites where the snake actually grabs and wraps and like chews for a while. But the size of this snake and the size of its teeth and the fact that it was right across my hand where there's like really no meat to sink into, like her longest tooth, which is probably like about that, was digging into my knuckle, And so for the next, I'd say a week and a half or so, I couldn't open and close my hand quite right because, of the damage. She probably like got teeth into the tendons and whatnot. That was the worst bite. But to that point, like that was the worst bite I've ever taken from a snake. Didn't have to go to the hospital or anything like that. It was just not that a male retake in breeding season sliding across and slicing you up pretty good couldn't require stitches, but the worst bite I've ever had working with snakes since I was 4 years old didn't send me to the hospital.
Right. Now, in my collection, the worst bite I ever took is from my Amazon tree boa. Now,
they got some long teeth.
Long teeth. One time it bit me so hard. I said, I'm going to start using the hook to pick this sucker up. And my homeboy, Iron Dog Reptiles.
Oh, yeah, I know Iron Dog.
Me, yeah, Big Iron Dog. Yeah, you know Iron Dog. He said, man, you need to go on and pick it up with your hands. I said, I ain't picking it up no more. You come pick it up. Let it bite you.
I got to meet this really cool tree boa at a guy named Richard Bilbo over in Salt Lake City, but in Utah. He had these just huge, beautiful animals. And wait. You said did you say Amazon tree boa?
Yeah, Amazon tree boa. Yep.
So I'm thinking emerald tree boa for what he had. Yeah, the Amazons can be pretty ready to go as well. Amazon tree boa, actually, I was at my buddy Miguel's. I think it was the first time I went to my buddy Miguel over at Always Evolving Python. I believe it was the first time I went to his house. His son Ace has Amazon tree boa, and he was handling it and like doing a really good job. Like Garrett and I were both there kind of watching him like pick it up, and the way that he kind of like touched it over here and paid attention over there, he picked it up. He did it without getting bit, which is pretty impressive because it was actually a pretty defensive Amazon tree boa. But I immediately went to emerald tree boas at Richard Bilbo's place, and they also have very long teeth, maybe even longer actually than Amazon, and super docile though. Just big, beautiful emerald tree boas that like you can just pet on the face, and they're just totally used to being handled. I love snakes like that. I love getting snakes, raising them from babies, and getting them to, especially ones that are known to be or have the negative image or preconceived notion that this particular species is really defensive or harder to work with. I love taking a baby of that species and raising it up so that it's easy. Like I've got scrub pythons that are kind of seen as maybe more cantankerous. They also have very, very long teeth. They're quite athletic, and some species, many examples of them in people's breeding groups or animal groups are hard to handle. So it's fun to take an animal like that that's known to be harder to handle and make it handleable by a kid. Like she can, where's she at? There she goes. She can handle these scrub pythons, and she does. It's fun.
That's what's up. That's what's up, man.
That's what I like to do.
Right. That's what's up. So in my collection, my favorite snake would have to be my carpet python. Now, with your collection, I'm kind of curious, what's your favorite snake? I'll say this. What's your favorite snake? Venomous and non-venomous?
Well, I have one carpet python, which it's funny. I'm going to be hosting Southwest Carpet Fest next month, or what month are we in? April? Oh, so in June. But I only have one carpet python, so I always kind of laugh about that because it's going to be the second time I hosted Carpet Fest. It's like everybody comes. There's all these different carpet fests. I don't know if you know of them. There's the original one that happened in the Northeast over there by the guys who have the NPR podcast, Morelia Python Radio. Those guys started the original one. Then there's other ones that happen throughout the state, like Northwest Carpet Fest, Southwest Carpet Fest, Midwest. Tinley Park is kind of the unofficial Midwest Carpet Fest, the Tinley Park NERBC show, which is going to be happening in Schaumburg this year, of course, or this month, June. Favorite snake. Sorry, I'm getting so totally sidetracked. So non-venomous indigo snakes have really taken the cake. For as far as species go and favorite. I just love the way that they handle, and as a species, I had one individual that I unfortunately lost at the beginning of this year to some pretty aggressive cancer, carcinoma, and he was my favorite snake of all time. He was an indigo snake, and he just had this total chill temperament and was just so easygoing. But the whole species in general is a very aware snake. That, in fact, I hear stories about folks who are reptile zookeepers in official zoos like AZA zoos, and that work with maybe things like cobras and king cobras, and they're looking for something like that they can work with at home, but they're not allowed to keep a king cobra at home. And the closest thing they can get to something they're allowed to keep is an indigo snake because of how aware they are, just kind of like how they move and that just the way to check things out. If you ever see one eat, they're one of the few snakes that doesn't. I feel like most snakes that people keep, there's so many constrictors, or then the venomous side. But these guys, they just grab it with their powerful jaws and just like overpower it. Just like grab it, just immediately start trying to eat it. And they also eat like everything, including rattlesnakes, including birds, lizards. I just feel like and the way they feel when you hold them, they got this. Their skin just feels super, like soft, almost like really soft alligator skin or something, and they just have this cool feel, and just the way they check things out, the way they flick their tongue, everything about Gyrmocon cooperi is just, I love it. I absolutely love it. That's my favorite non-venomous snake, hands down. You trying to show us something, T? What you got? Splinter. Oh, you got a splinter? Let me help you out here. Oh yeah, you got a good little splinter there. I'm gonna get it out for you.
Adorable.
She got a splinter.
Y'all take the time. She's adorable.
I don't know if you can see it there.
Poor thing. Out playing and got a splinter.
Do I need to pull out with my teeth, T? I think I can get this one with my fingers. Boop. There you go. Got it. All done. As far as favorite venomous snake, that's tough. I've not really spent a whole lot of time with venomous snakes long enough to really, I think, make a complete educated pick as to which would be my favorite. I will say that gaboons are absolutely gorgeous. I mean, from the big fat head that they've got. That's what's that thing? Yeah, we can go on the trampoline, T. Again, dude, thanks for allowing my daughter to be with me while we're doing this. I really appreciate it. Yeah, gaboon vipers, man, they're just so beautiful, and it's so interesting to watch them crawl. Like Jay Not Prehistoric Pets has a couple that he got from Tom Crushfield, and I was checking. It's funny, I was actually at Tom's place when he was packing them up. I didn't realize he was sending them to Jay, but I went and saw him at Jay's place. I was like, hey, I saw these things get shipped out and put in the bag. But the way they crawl, when they just go like straight, when they like beeline in a certain direction, they're just crawling straight. It's so weird because their pattern is so beautiful. And then while they're moving around and crawling on the ground, that straight line, like watching the way you can see their ribs. You know how a caterpillar crawls, of course. They're like kind of undulating wave of legs moving. It's like that's how their ribs move, because when snakes are crawling forward like that, I forget the exact name. I want to say articulating, but that's not it. Their ribs basically move like caterpillar legs, and the way that looks against the pattern of the gaboon viper is just amazing. But I also had a chance to hold a king cobra one time in Indonesia, and that was also a pretty incredible experience. But my point is, it's hard for me to pick a favorite venomous snake.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's up. That's what's up, man. Now, I know you a real big breeder. You know, you breed a lot of stuff. What's some of the breeding projects you got going on right now? Something that
Well,
you're like happy about?
well, again, I consider myself really a small time breeder, honestly. More hobbyist level. I mean, again, when I put it into perspective, you know, maybe compared to somebody who's producing 2 clutches a year, I'm a big breeder because I'm now producing like 8 or maybe even 10. So, but then compared to like guys that are actually big breeders who are producing hundreds, if not thousands of clutches a year, which those guys are out there, uh, I wouldn't consider myself a big breeder, more hobbyist breeder. Again, that's just a matter of perspective. You know, I've if I was now I have sold some animals. You know, I was fortunate enough to get into some of these projects that I really like that turned fortunate and unfortunate turned out to be quite expensive projects. Like the first project, Clown Pied, that got me interested in breeding ball pythons in the first place. I didn't know. I just thought it was beautiful. I wanted to get into it, and then once I realized how much it was going to cost to get one, I was like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. Um, so just by default, I kind of got in it. And then the Sunset Project I thought was beautiful too, and that happened to be also crazy expensive. So I've been able to produce some of those and make some pretty good coin off of some of the snakes I've produced. So in that sense, I guess kind of big. You know, I think that if you're ever selling an animal for, you know, tens of thousands of dollars, that could be. I don't care who you are. Anybody that I tell that doesn't know anything about snakes is like, what are you talking about? You sold a snake for $20,000, like that. Who does that? Who buys a snake for $20,000? Why does that exist? You know, when I'm talking to people that sitting on airplanes or wherever, I end up talking to people about what we do and, you know, all the aspects of it. That eventually comes up at some point, and then everybody's just always mind blown. Just like, I can't believe that happens.
Right. Now I want to get into breeding myself, but I don't want to do like the eggs. I want to get into snakes that do like live births, like the boas and the stuff like that. So I'm pretty excited.
I've never produced a snake. I've only bred a handful of species, like literally 2. I've ball pythons and blood pythons. I've got a few other species that I'd like to produce that I'm working with over here with, you know, the scrub pythons, and I've got actually, I guess I do have one boa pairing going on, but it's a joint pairing with one of my really good buddies that lives out here close to me, Travis Johnson, over at Living Legless Reptiles, who is a phenomenal human being and snake keeper, and he works with all kinds of cool species that not too many people work with. In fact, he actually produced Candoya, which there's only a handful of people that actually work with those island boas, and he's produced some. I've got a joint pairing with him, a pair of BCO. My BCO, my male BCO is over there at his place, and hopefully we'll have a litter this season. So that would be awesome. Even though it's not just me doing it, it would still be cool to have one of my snakes help produce like you're saying, a live litter of baby snakes instead of, then you don't have to incubate the eggs. But then it's like you get the benefit of getting to know how many snakes you potentially have coming with eggs, and then you have a chance to incubate them. And you kind of know exactly when to get ready. You know roughly with ball pythons, it's going to be about a couple months to get all the setups ready and know what you're expecting. Versus a litter of boas just come flying out. It's like you don't know if there's going to be 10 or if there's going to be 20, and then all of a sudden there they are. But you don't have to wait either. You don't have to sit there and wait for them to come. So there's a trade-off on either side that I see.
Right. Now I'm gonna tell you something, man. I've been following you for a while, and you made a video. It made me cuss. I ain't gonna lie. I watched it. I said, "Ooh, let me. I'm gonna tell you the title of it." I said, "Ooh, this sounds interesting. Let me watch it." And I clicked it, and I watched it. I said, "This month," and I'm gonna tell you what video it was.
I probably make a video like that for just about everybody out there that has that reaction of it.
I'm gonna tell you what video it was. It was I get my first venomous snake, and I said, "Oh, he about to get a big ass cobra," and I looked, man, it was a hog nose.
Which are technically venomous snake. They have venom. They're rear fanged venomous. So, I mean, the people that keep like cobras and rattlesnakes are like, don't joke with me, dude. And then maybe even people don't. But technically, it's a venomous snake. And I do like to play with my titles to make, you know, just like get real close to, you know, like almost clickbait, maybe even actually clickbait sometimes. It's just the name of the game on YouTube sometimes. But I always try to keep it, you know, like where it's not just straight up clickbait, where it's like a lie. Like it was my first venomous snake. If you've been chewed on by the rear fang of a hognose snake, then you know it is mildly venomous. It's not it's not a corn snake.
Now,
You can get chewed on a corn snake all day. You're never going to get envenomated. But I got hognose venom in my finger. But to your point, yeah, people are thinking it's like rattlesnake. It's like, you know, I always think about stuff. I think about stuff like that often. I'm like,
it was a good video. I enjoyed it. I was like,
yeah.
This dude is silly.
yes. I'm definitely silly. I have my serious moments, but they're fewer and more far in between than the amount of silly moments I have on any given day. That's true. And so I try not to be too worried about, you know, stuff like how people are going to take. Like if you didn't enjoy it, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. And if somebody doesn't enjoy a video, it's like, I'm sorry. Like that's, you know, it's never my goal to be like, I hope somebody hates this. I never put a video thinking, I hope that people look at this and they're like, what? I can't stand that this happened. That's never my intention when I'm putting out a video.
Right.
But it can be taken that way, regardless of what my intentions are. There's always gonna be somebody out there who's like, I hated this. This is the worst thing ever. Just like a lot of people have that attitude towards snakes. You know, more people than not. And they're like, snake? No, get that away from me, and don't ever try to touch me with that again. That's the way it is sometimes with videos. But I don't worry about it. It's like, if you don't like it, I didn't make it for you.
Right. I enjoyed it, man. I thought it was hilarious. I was like, this is giving me ideas. I'm gonna do it. I just gotta wait till I get me the hog nose. This is hilarious.
Yeah. I try not to take myself too seriously most of the time.
Right. Sure. Now this is to inspire, you know, small YouTubers like me, man. How does it feel hitting that 30,000, man? How did that feel when you hit it, man?
You know, it's, again, that's another perspective thing. Like when you're at 29,000 the week before or the month before, it's not as big a deal. Like if I was at, you know, say I just started the channel and I was just, you know, at a few hundred, and then in a couple weeks, all of a sudden I hit 30,000, I'd probably be like, whoa, that was crazy. Like, how'd that happen? But it's been kind of more of a slow growth type of thing, which was always my goal. Not that you can have too much, like people either like your content and then it blows up and goes viral and it blows up real fast, or you keep plugging away at it and it grows slowly. I think there's algorithm that goes into it, but there's also just keeping at it. You know, there's luck and there's just grind, and you never really know with YouTube, right? YouTube is not, it's hard to say what's going to strike a chord with people, or what's going to hit the algorithm just right where it gets, you know, in front of a bunch of people. My point is it didn't feel, and still doesn't feel, all that weird or crazy, you know, any more weird than it is already to just put your life up on the internet and let people watch it and comment on it. I didn't do anything like, I didn't do like, oh, I hit 30,000 subscribers, let's do a celebration. I've done that before. I did it when we hit like 1,000 subscribers. I think I did something, and I think maybe again with 10,000. But I guess numbers wise for me, you know, 10,000 was the thing. And then I guess the next thing would be 100,000, maybe do some kind of celebration there. But the number of subscribers isn't even as important. I don't know. You know, the reason I started YouTube in the first place was just to kind of see what other people were doing out there, and make some connections with folks out there that were into the same things that I was into, and just communicate with some people on a broader scale than just the people that are around me. Yeah, we can play hide and seek. And that's worked. So regardless if I've got 30,000, 10,000, 100,000, as long as I'm making connections with people in the real world and building real relationships that become beyond the screen, and that was always the intention.
Right.
And that's what's been happening. And if getting more subscribers means building more of those real relationships with people that really matter, then that's what I celebrate.
Okay, well, man, I think you dope at what you do, and you dope, and I'm gonna tell you why you dope, because you know you've got to work with some of the dopest in the hobby, because they know you dope. So you know, I'm kind of curious, who is some of your favorite collabs that you've done with?
Let's see. Collab as far as like with other people who have YouTube channels.
Yeah.
Well, they're all people who are real friends today. So
Yep.
the first person that took me on and kind of, I would say, gave me a chance was Jay Brewer. He, you know, I watched his videos, and then I went down there, and he was just like, "Hey, you want to?" I asked him. I was like, "Would you do a video with me?" And he was just like, "Yeah." And then you do it, and I'll put it up on my channel so that people can see it, and we'll send you some more folks. So that was awesome right off the bat. I was like, "Wow, that's cool. Thanks." And that because he's got a huge audience, you know.
Right.
And then Brian at BHB came not shortly after that, and then my buddy Garrett. And there's dude, I don't. Those are a couple of the biggest, obviously. Brian and Jay were two guys that came real big and supportive of what I was doing, and just kind of blew me away with their willingness to support back a guy who they really had nothing to gain with that. You know, I was a little tiny channel, just kind of getting it started. There was no like benefit for them whatsoever, other than just like literally no benefit for them. Other than so, that was cool. And then I met so many more people, just like you. Like we're doing this thing right here, right now. Like
I appreciate that, brother.
Yeah, I just it's fun for me, man. I like people a lot more than I did when I was younger, when I was kind of very antisocial and much more of an introvert. We're gonna go parking a little bit, okay, Chris?
That's what's up, man. So do you remember your first snake? I'm kind of curious.
Yeah. It was a probably not the best snake to get as your first snake. You know, neither myself nor my parents were very informed. Not that anybody in the world was as much as we are today with the internet. You know, this is obviously pre-internet, lots of things. And it was a rough green snake. And my understanding is that they're mostly wild caught in Florida because they're really easy to find and get. And we didn't know that. They didn't last too long in captivity. You know, like the crickets ended up eating them. But that was my very first snake. I was 4 years old. This is 1985, and that was my first snake.
Yeah,
rough green snake. I don't think they lasted a year. Honestly, it's kind of sad when I go back and think about it. Yeah.
All right, now you do a lot of reptile expos, brother. I want to hear a crazy fan story. I know you got one. A woman running up to you like, "Oh, it's Brian Kusko. Sign my boobs."
I'll give you two. I've definitely got that. Definitely got the people that come up. There's been multiple of these. I'm gonna give you two different stories. There's an example. There's been several people that have come up and just been like, man, like we were in whether it's a couple or an individual have come in, like we're in such a bad way that, you know, they're just like having mental struggles and like all kinds of things, like sometimes borderline suicidal, and then just would get hope from the videos. Like, you know, whether the video we're talking about, you know, like my wife was having some bouts with anxiety last year, and then we just kind of talk about that stuff and put it out there, and inspiring people to take charge of their own lives and do what they can to be better. There's been many people that have come up to shows and expressed that our videos help in that way. It's always huge. Like people just come up and pour out their heart about how much it's helped them. It is, I don't know if humbling is the right word, but it's intense. Like it can be intense when people come up like that. I'm like, man, you don't always realize what kind of impact you're having on people through the internet. You know, you can realize it in person a little better. I'm gonna sit in the car. My neighbor's getting crazy with that weed whacker.
Take your time. Don't worry.
Fire season is coming, so it's good they're preparing for that. Yeah, those moments are always some of the, like, I appreciate them a lot. Like the fact that I can have that effect on somebody, they're willing to come up and talk to me about it and just pour their heart out and have some big hugs. Those are some of the, what I would consider crazy. One of my most memorable ones, and this has only happened once, but sometimes you have a show, there's a lot going on. There's a lot happening, and you're talking to a lot of people. And fortunately, the channel's had a lot of outreach. A lot of people come up and want to say hi and hang out. there's this one moment where I was distracted. Somebody came up, and I kind of felt them over there to the side, and I was in the middle of, like, my wife had just called me on FaceTime, and she was trying to find something somewhere in a closet. I was trying to direct her to, like, how to either fix something or find something. I don't remember what it was, but I was totally focused on my phone because I'm talking to my wife on FaceTime trying to help her out with something. And then it took a little bit, and the person was there, and I kind of like finished it, and I was distracted. I like turned the other way or something. And then they commented later on a video about how they tried to meet me and that I was too stuck up to like pay any attention to them. And like, I was just, you know, it seems super nice in my videos, but in person, I was like, whoa. But, and then I thought back, and I remembered that there's that person standing off to the side there for a second. And so I kind of got into it a little bit in the comments. I was like, did you just like see me standing there and like make a snap judgment about my character without even talking to me? Like, just assume that I don't have time, or that I don't like people, or that I could give a shit less about who happens to be around me. Like, and we went back and forth a little bit, and then I get like, because I take it seriously. Like, I care about people. I really do care about people. I want to have a good impact on the world, and even that, if that's one person at a time. That means a lot to me. So I took it really personally. I got very defensive. I was like, don't you come on here telling me who you think I am. You didn't even talk to me. And I gave her my phone number. We ended up having a phone call and actually meeting later to show. And, you know, and she was like, you know, I realized that you weren't who I was commenting before. You know, I put in way too much effort to try and reach out to this person and then have an actual time with them. You know, that was one of the more memorable ones, because I was so I took it so personal when, you know, they made that, what I considered a snap judgment about my character, because they thought they met me in person but didn't really get a chance to at that moment. And yeah, that was good.
Man, you know, people can be like that, just judgmental, don't know, just quick to judge. But you handle yourself good though, brother.
Well, it happens. You know, I mean, so I try to think from other people's perspective. You put a lot of time, especially if you watch like every video. There's folks that watch every single video, comment on every video, and pay attention. That's a lot of time invested. Sometimes it blows my mind. Like, that is so much time. I've got like 700 something plus videos up on 2 channels at this point. There's more than that, guaranteed, and that's a lot of time invested. So if you finally get that chance to meet somebody in person that you've invested that much time into, and then you think that they don't want to give you the time of day, I can see where somebody would take that personal. Right. But I always want to give everybody as much time as I can when I'm on a show. That's why this last show I went to, I made a point. I did get some interviews, which is great, because I really wanted to get back to doing those interviews in person. I also generally film a lot of vlog stuff which takes some time as well. And this last show, since it was the first one back in like over a year, I was like, I want to make sure I have as much time to just hang out with people and not be so focused on doing video. So I just did a quick half-hour uncut, unedited video of the show, and that did give me a lot more time to like focus on being with people in person and not worry so much about getting the video, or, you know, getting all the different shots that go into a well-edited, you know, story of a video, and just do the uncut one. I think I might do that going forward, because I liked it so much. Right. I liked it. That freed me up to be able to spend actual moments with people, you know, more actual moments, because there's always actual moments with people, but to be able to make that the main focus and not be so worried about getting the video of the show.
Right. Now, I watched one of your herping videos where you and some big dogs went herping and looking for rattlesnakes. I'm kind of curious, man, with your herping videos, what's one of your best
dude, finds? Dave and Clint too. See, this is why I try not to bring up particular names, like when it comes to like who are my favorite, or like what are the favorite collabs, because I've collab with a bunch of people at this point that I like, that are friends now. That, you know, I generally just do that with. I'm not so much looking out to do collabs with folks just for the sake of doing a collab or for necessarily growing the channel. I just like find people that I like, that I've seen out there. I'm like, I like this person. I want to meet this person. I want to do some stuff with them. Right. And it goes in there. But I try not to name off names too much, because I'm always going to leave somebody out. Doesn't matter. I can go down the list. There's always going to be somebody I forget to name in the moment. Even if I sit down and write down a list and like take some time, like eventually I'm going to be like, oh wait, what about this person and this person? Because I've had so many people on our channel as well, you know, whether it's an interview on Triple B TV, so many people over the years. But yeah, that with Dave and Clint, like Clint is one of my favorite people on the planet. Dave is hilarious, and we vibe together so well. I give him such crap, you know, in person. Like I make a lot of fun of him, because he he sets himself up for it. Let's be honest, Dave. But that was one of my more favorite videos I did this year, was the rattlesnake video, because of how fun it was. There was a whole bunch of reasons. My son, his first time out with us on a real actual big dog herping trip, and just kind of the different footage that we got, and like it just worked out. The story was fantastic. Yeah. What was the question?
Hey, no worries, man. I appreciate you for talking, man. No worries, bro. I'm just saying, because you do herping videos. What's one of your most favorite finds that you've got while you was out?
There's a couple. Oh, dude. If I had to nail it down to one, so here's the ones that went through my mind before I arrived here. I was thinking about the rubber boas of Brian Gundy, because Brian Gundy is also a phenomenal human being. Actually, Brian Gundy was the one that inspired me to start a YouTube channel. You should get Brian Gundy on here. Brian Gundy.
You know what? I'm planning on it.
Yeah, he is one of the best human beings I've ever met on this planet. Like, hardcore. Like, if he happens to go before I do, I'm gonna be a fucking mess. Because that dude, I love that man with all of my heart. He is such a great person, and he's we did some fantastic herping videos. You have rubber boas. That's the first one I thought of, and then I also thought of the rattlesnakes that we found on the bluffs, out at. I'm like getting a little choked up thinking about Brian. Sorry. Out on the cliff, the bluffs out here in Orange County, finding rattlesnakes right next to this beautiful ocean bluffs where I wouldn't have expected to see them if the girls at Cal Poly didn't turn me on to the spot. Yeah, that. But the one that takes the cake is definitely going out to the middle of nowhere in the jungle of Indonesia and finding reticulated pythons in a cave with Brian Barczyk. We had to be, guided down there by the elders of the village to find this place. That was, and because of the whole thing that was involved, the journey to get there, the fact that I was with B, and the fact that we were finding retics, which not a whole lot of people, like I think the majority of people that keep reticulated pythons have probably never seen one in the wild. And so just that, having that honor of being able to have that experience, as well as having elders of a village that is up in the cuts that doesn't really see civilization, like guide us down there and do a whole little blessing ceremony before we entered the cave, like and ask permission of the spirits to allow us safe passage into this cave that was filled with bats, and just like we were like chest high and like a river of bat guano. It was just intense, and like the air in there was there's so much ammonia and stuff in the air. Like it was intense and awesome, because we found, like, we were 10 feet in the cave and we found the first retic. that was, I'd have to put that one at the top. That would have to go at the top.
Man, that sounds amazing. Being able to go somewhere and hurt, where you just said, man, that's dope, bro. You remind me of this dude that had on David's feed. He goes herping all over the world, man. Pretty incredible guy. I am curious, now that we're talking about David's feed, have you ever free handled a venomous snake?
Yeah, I mentioned that before. I was also on that same trip, actually, in Indonesia.
Oh, yeah.
Big King Cobra. Yeah, that. And then also when I was a kid, we used to grab rattlesnakes and catch them. And even when I was an older kid, when I first moved back from the island, I was doing that. Obviously, it's funny. It's not funny. It's a very controversial subject, like free handling versus like responsible and appropriate handling. I've seen both sides, folks that and interact with people on both ends of the spectrum that are a little more cowboy about it, to like the girls out at Cal Poly that do the rattlesnake research that are completely hands off, like absolutely no hand, unless it's tubed to get hands on wherever they need to for that part. I don't have strong feelings either or. I'm a very strong believer in personal choice and responsibility, and being responsible for your own actions and not blaming other people for what you think is like there's so much of like people trying to control other people out there in the world of this new age of internet, where everybody gets to see what everybody's doing all the time. And so much of this, we need to stop these people from doing this. We need to stop those people from doing that. I get sick of that. I can't stand that mentality. I just like live and let live. Like, if somebody wants to be stupid, let them be stupid. There's already thousand million. That's my kids talking. There's 1,000 million laws out there to protect stupid people from themselves. I say, whatever, like that venomous that king cobra was a hell of an experience, and I was very hesitant at first, but after watching for literally hours these guys work with them there in that mall, it was a reptile show in Indonesia that was being held in this huge, like 5-story mall in the city of Jakarta. And yeah, it was awesome. I would maybe not do it again because I've already got to do it and got to feel what it was like to have a king cobra draped on your shoulders. And there's a bunch of guys out there working with people keeping the attention forward. Like I said, I watched enough people handle at that point that were walking by, locals and stuff. I was like, all right, these guys clearly know what they're doing. They've been working with this snake like probably its whole life and all day long. And I was just like, that looks like how can I not? I must. I must get in there and feel what it feels like to have a king cobra draped on your shoulders. My wife wasn't happy about it. My mom wasn't happy about it. And I'm sure lots of other people that are in the reptile community that want to stop other people from doing whatever they want weren't happy about it. But it was worth the experience. Again, it was life is all about assessing risk and what you want to do. Like, do you want to jump off that cliff because it's exhilarating and splash into that water? I used to do that every day. I'd drive my bike down to a little cliff in Hawaii where people would look at it and be like, no. And there's even a sign when you walk into this little park. It says, warning, X amount of people have died here. And I would go swim there every single day.
Right.
It's just, you got to make your decision, like how much you want to live, how much risk are you willing to take to actually live? Like, I could sit in my house all day in the couch and like do DoorDash and totally limit my experience with the outside world. And it would probably be safer. I might end up getting a disease from being too fat and unhealthy from not moving. But that's my point, is like, how far, it's up to every individual. At a certain point, you got to be an adult and take responsibility for your own decisions. I'm not a little kid. If I want to do something like that, I do think about my kids, which is why my wife had a strong point about the venomous snake handling, taking that risk. It's like, no, it's not just my life necessarily that's indirect effect. It's like these guys back here, I'm sure they want to have me around as long as possible. So but that's still my decision, and I don't think anybody else should make that for me. I will take ideas, but this idea of like actually trying to control what other people are doing, I'm not about it.
Right. Well, I won't hold you up too much longer. I got a few more questions and I'll let you go. I appreciate you for hanging out with me. Now, while we're talking about your wife, I've done it. I'm kind of curious. Have you done it? Have you ever like lied about the price of a snake? Like, you bought a $5,000 ball python and you was like, nah, baby, this was $200.
No, I haven't actually done that. I know that's it's funny, the spouse or significant other thing sometimes, right? Like, here's my favorite thing when somebody's like, oh, I really want that snake, and like they know how much it is. It's priced, accordingly, and they're like, I think I'm gonna do it. Like, and they ask all the questions, and they're like ready, and then when it's time to pull the trigger, they come back. Oh, my wife said I can't. That's one of my favorite things. But no, I've never. She knows, like, that first really expensive snake, that first clown pied I got, which was like, I think the 4th snake that I picked up when we moved back from the island. She knew what the price was, and she trusted me. She trusted me. She said, you're crazy, but I trust you. If that's what you think you want to do, and you think that's a good idea, and to drop that kind of money on a snake, then okay. You go ahead and do it.
Daddy,
what's up, T?
can we go upstairs?
Yeah, we can go upstairs. Yeah. So no, I've never had to fib to her. The last expensive snake I bought, I kind of told her, what my plans were for it and why thought I was justified in dropping again another, almost 10K on a snake. And
10K.
Yeah, and we talked about it. And I was like, this is what's this, and what it will potentially produce in the next coming seasons, and it'll all be worth it from a completely financial standpoint. Not financial. I'm not a financial guy either. I like to consider myself a financial dunce. Luckily, I've got other people in my life that know what they're doing when it comes to stuff like that, so I can at least take a little bit of their advice on some of these things, even if I don't take all of it. Because money is not the end all of a good life, I don't think. I mean, it definitely has its benefits. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to just be able to do. There's certainly a certain amount of freedom that comes from having the right amount of cash to just do whatever you want and not have to worry about what it costs. There is that, but I'm getting way off in the weeds. I feel like no, I've never had to fib to my wife about how much a snake costs.
Oh, hey, no worries. I was just kind of curious, man. I thought that'd be interesting to ask you. Now, what do you feel like? Because you've been on YouTube for some years. What do you feel like the most challenging part of YouTube for you is?
It's a good question. The most challenging part, I'd say there's a couple of parts that I would put as equally challenging. One is just taking the time to make sure you're keeping up with everything, your content, being consistent. That can be challenging, especially depending on what's happening and going through. Every life takes turns and twists. Like there was a time when I got into a pretty good car accident and I was hurting pretty good, couldn't even work, and I took a break from YouTube, and it may have been a mistake because it was kind of close to the beginning of the vlog channel, which as I mentioned, is the most successful channel on YouTube that I've done, and maybe it would have taken off a lot more had I not taken off in a month or even maybe 2 months. It was right towards the beginning of the start of the channel. So just staying consistent with content, and now I question myself, like, why do I have this many channels? Like, what am I thinking? I'm like pushing myself to the edge here with content. But that, along with being able to put out something that is true to yourself, because I'm very cognizant of how content's going to be received. I don't just put stuff out and think, I don't care who thinks what about this. I actually care a lot what people think, but I also care to be as real as possible with whatever I'm putting out, but also try to be well spoken enough, which is another challenge of mine from time to time, to clearly communicate what it is I mean, or what it is the message that I'm actually trying to communicate in any given video. So that's one of the challenges right there, is creating content that I'm confident is going to project the message that I really want to project, while staying true to myself and while not completely, turning people off.
Right.
100%. It's a combo of struggles that all come together into one head.
That's what's up, man. Now, with you breeding, this is the last question. With you being a breeder and, being so well connected, I'm curious, have you ever sold a snake to a celebrity?
No. I mean, I guess the closest. So, do you know Miguel at Always Evolving Pythons?
Oh yeah, of course. I don't personally know him, but I know who you're talking about.
So he's definitely done that. I mean, he's sold snakes to basketball players. He sold snakes to very famous YouTubers that are probably on the top tier of YouTube fame, including Jake Paul, who I think at this point a lot of people know, especially that he's started entering into the boxing league and got his name out there huge. And he sold a snake to Ozzy Osbourne, which for me was like, that is like, for me personally, that's like the creme de la creme of celebrities, a literal rock star, like legend of a rock star who Metallica looks up to. He went to that guy's house and sold a snake to his granddaughter. That, for me, and I've sold a snake to Miguel. So my point is, that's the closest I've come. Like Miguel actually bought the most expensive snake I've ever sold from me.
That's big.
And so that's the closest I've got to selling a snake to an actual celebrity. Neil Young does stop by here in our town a lot. Maybe I can catch him and turn him on to snakes and do that. But yeah, at this point, I would have to rank, if you want to consider Miguel Garcia a celebrity, which I consider him a good friend. and also a bit of a celebrity at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
I consider you a celebrity, man. You're doing big things out here, brother.
I just want to live my life, enjoy it, and let as many people as possible enjoy it with me, man.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, I appreciate you for coming on here with me. I always end my interviews by giving some shout outs to the people that I run with in my community. Before we leave, I want to give a shout out to Iron Dog Reptiles, My Animal House, Marquez Family Reptiles, Joe, Reptile Feedings, Kurt Wood, Ball Python Love, Desert Wolf Armory, Venom Wonderful, Doug's Monsters. So many of them. Great group of guys. OSMR, Not Lou. Great group of guys. Make sure y'all go check them out. Big Kusko, man, I appreciate you for coming on. I'm going to end this. Don't leave just yet.
Okay.
I'll holler at y'all, man. I appreciate y'all for watching. Until next time, we out.
Thanks for having me on, Derek.
Of course, man.